What am I looking at here? What's my data? It's an array of objects. What do these objects represent? Okay, how do you know that? Exactly. The name of the variable and the attributes help me out a lot. They just tell me a lot of information about what data I'm dealing with, okay? So now, we're gonna write a function called find girls, okay? Each one of these objects has a gender. It's either gonna be M or F. I'm gonna prove to you I have exactly 3 girls in my array. I'm gonna copy this line, paste, and do F. Do you guys see that right here? So 1 of 3. I have exactly 3 girls in my array. I got An right here. I hit enter again. I've got Dip.
Just add the agenda.
Yeah, I just added it myself. The proof of the point here is that your data can get really complicated. Okay, I just added some shit myself because I want to show you guys examples of how we're going to use map and for each and etc. Okay, so I have exactly 3. We have Van. We have Van, we have Dip, and we have An. So I have some code, I have some data. I think I know how to write JavaScript, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to write JavaScript. So what's really important is that we've got to test, constantly test, okay? So I'm gonna hop over to my browser. Let's go ahead and close some of these windows. Okay. Oops. Okay, this works. Put this over here. Remember, guys. Remember, we have three girls in our array. Okay, I'm gonna copy this and paste it here. So I do people.length. I see I have 10 people in my array. So now imagine that we have a new requirement where we have a button, and the button says, "Hey, find all the people that are girls." Okay. So now we need to write a new function. So what I could do is I could use the most basic way of looping over some data. I could just define a function called find girls. It takes an array of persons. I need to create a new array. And the purpose of this array is to hold the people that are girls. So I do constant girls equals array. And I can do a for loop. And how many times do I want this for loop to run? I want the for loop to run however many times it needs to, depending on how many elements are in the array. So I take persons and I switch it here. So array.length. As long as the number of loops is smaller than the length of the array, I'm going to loop over it. And if the person.gender, god damn it, if person.gender, come on, person.gender is equal to female, I'm gonna push this person into that array. Okay? Oh, my bad. Actually, I fucked up. Persons, I'm going to use the index of this loop to identify the person in the array.
You want personal? You wrote personal?
Fuck, man. What's this? Persons, I. Okay? Does that make sense? So I define a old school way. We don't have
I can
ES6.
help you find a...
We don't have ES6 right here. Okay? We define a function the old school way. We run a loop over every single element in the array, the person's array. We use the index to identify each element in the array that we're currently working with. Lastly, we return the girls array. Okay? So let's just prove that this works. So I have people. I'm gonna paste this function. Everything looks okay. Okay. So that's console.log, find girls, and we'll pass it our people. Okay? So what should we see here? We have an array of 3 elements. I expect to see An, I expect to see Dip, I expect to see Van. So I look at my array, I hop in here, I see An, I see Dip, and I see Van. That is one way. Okay, I'm gonna look at my notes, guys. Okay, So this is one way, but this way fucking sucks. I don't want to think about how many indexes are in my array. It's too complicated. My brain hurts thinking about that. Okay, so I'm going to write a function again. Also the same declaration. Okay, I'm going to define a variable which will hold all the people that are girls. But instead of this time, I'm not going to use the for loop because for loop is complicated, man. Fuck that. I don't want to do that shit. I'm going to map. Okay. I'm going to map over every single element in my array. What argument does my array take? Does map take? What's the first argument? Huh? It's going to take a loop. The argument is going to be a function. This is a function. Okay? Dot map its first argument is going to be a function. And specifically, you guys remember earlier I told you there are many different types of functions. If you guys want to be more specific, this is called a callback. This is it's not with an S. Thank you. It's just that. This type of function is called a callback. Right? This is the situation when we pass it to a function to run, and then when it runs, it calls that function. That's called a callback. Call it back whenever you're done. Blah blah blah. Okay. So now inside of this callback, this function. It will be called with one argument. What will this argument represent? It will represent each element in my array. What are the elements in my array? My people array consists of objects which represent people. Right? So each element is a person. So I think person is a reasonable name. That makes sense. So now I'm going to take if person.gender is equal to female, and I close the conditional. Oh, I named this wrong. Girls. If the person's gender is equal to female, I'm going to push them into the girls array. Now I need to return girls. Okay. So let's confirm that this works. I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to paste my people. Go down to the bottom. I'm going to paste my function I just declared, and everything looks okay. So I'm going to try to call my new function with the people array. And once again, I have another array with 3 people. Right? Okay, so that's way number 2. So let's do way number 3. I'm sorry, guys. I'm cheating right now. Okay. I can't remember. There's so many different ways. There's so many different ways to write this. We could have written 20 different ways. The truth is I could have written 20 different ways. Find girls equals, what's the argument, guys? What data type is the argument? What is person's always going to be? It's going to be an array. So I can do the same thing. I'll have an array in which I store all the girls. And then I can do the exact same code here. But what is the difference? How is this a different way of writing this, okay? When a function in ES6 has exactly one argument, we can remove the parentheses, okay? It has to have exactly one argument. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I've watched 2 or 3 of you guys today try to do this. It has to have exactly one argument before we can remove the arrays, or the parentheses. Do you guys see this? On line 211, see how one of them has a missing parentheses? Right? You guys see that? I know this is basic and it's a little different. It's only a little bit different, but we're proving a concept here. So I'm going to test the function again. Test it over here. I'm going to console log my data, and once again, I have an array of 3 people, and they're all girls. Once again, we have n. Okay, that's way number 3. Let's do number 4. Okay, so I'm going to copy everything again, just to make this move quickly. So we see that we have a conditional if right here. We have a conditional if the person's gender is female. When a conditional is one line, when it's exactly one line only, we can forget about the curly braces. We can add it to the same line. This is also acceptable syntax. So I'm going to refresh the browser. I'll copy my function in. I'll paste it. Do the same thing right here with my people. Let's just test this. Test this badass motherfucker. Okay. Okay, once again, we also have another function which will find the girls. Okay, this is also another one. This one's a bit tricky. I've seen some of you guys use ternary operators. Okay, some of you haven't used ternary operators. Some of you have. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. So we notice that our conditional here is on one line, right? If something is true, we want to do something. If it's not true, we want to do something else. So in order to make this easier, is something called a ternary operator. Okay, so look. So I'm going to do it on the line below. The ternary operator works like this. Okay, I have a conditional, person.gender equal to F. I have a question mark, and then I have what will happen if this is true. If this condition is true, what will happen? Okay, and lastly, I need to have a colon which separates the conditional whether or not it evaluates the true and whether or not it evaluates the false. So in this case, it evaluates the false. I'm just going to return null because I don't want anything to happen, right? We don't want this. We don't want the person who is not a female to be in this array. So I'm going to return, or I'm going to refresh. I'm going to paste this right here. I'm going to copy my people again. I'm going to paste it. Clear my console. And I ran the find girls function, and once again it returned 3 elements. Okay? So let's do number 6 now. Okay, so let's get more complicated. Let's do everything on one line. Okay, so we know that map will loop over an array, right? And then eventually map will return something. Map will return an array. It will in fact return an array. So what we can do is just delete all this, the girls variable, as well as the return. And then we can simply return from here. We can simply return from the persons.map because what persons.map returns is also an array. I think that's right. What number am I on? 6? Okay, but when we do this, we also don't want to have a ternary operator, okay? Because we don't want, this is stupid right here. We shouldn't have this colon null right here. So I'm gonna delete this, and instead of using,
Sorry, is there a way to turn off the light so we can see it a bit better?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm going to delete this variable that existed within. Do you see how all these functions so far have had a variable that we use within the function? You see that? They all have this girls variable, which is an array. If we understand how the function, the return keyword works, we can say goodbye to that. We don't need that. So this is one way. So now we're just evaluating each element within the array. Okay? And we switch map to filter because filter is going to take an array and it's going to give us fewer arrays, right? Or fewer elements in array. And filter says, hey, for each element, in this case a person, right? For each person, look at their gender. And if their gender is female, then we want that person. I'm going to prove to you this motherfucker works too. I'm sorry, I love proving because there's no arguments. I'm going to copy people. I'm going to copy my line over here. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to copy this, paste it. I also have exactly 3 elements. Once again, my last element will be an object that represents a person named Van. Hill,
Yeah.
why are you sleeping over here, man? I need you thinking. Okay, it's okay. We're about to be done. We only have 4 more. So now we're going to start using some sexy ass ES6, okay? So you can notice that our person object right here, right? Person is an object, correct? You can look right here. Because person is an array, when we run the filter method, we're dealing with one element in this array, right? So a really important thing about objects is the vast majority of the time, you don't need the entire object. You just need one piece of data from that object. So we can use something called ES6 destructuring. Okay, I'm gonna link you guys that later. But just know, when an argument to a function is an object, we can destructure it. Actually, no, it doesn't have to be an object. It can be an array as well. I know it's super advanced, that's why I'm recording, guys. So what I can do here is if I want to destructure this, I imagine that it's also just a function like this, right? I have to use the parentheses, okay? And inside the parentheses, I can do curly braces. And inside this curly brace, I can specify which key I want. And what are we interested in this case? Gender. That is the exact key that we want. So now I have gender in my body. And I can just say, hey, is the gender of the person female? So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to refresh to make sure this works. Okay, paste here. I'm going to get my people array. Paste it over here. Test this. Once again, I have exactly 3 elements. Okay? Okay, now it gets fun. So we've already started using ES6. Let's use it a little bit more. Remember how many different ways we could declare a function, guys? We don't have to use the function keyword. We use a constant, right? But you can see that our code editor is complaining. It's complaining that it doesn't understand. The syntax is wrong. The important thing to look about whenever we define using ES6 is that between the name of the function and the parentheses, we need an equal. And then after the parentheses, we need a fat arrow. Okay? Let's compare line 264 and 259. These are just different ways to do the same thing. Okay? So I'm going to refresh here. Okay? I'm going to paste this code. I'm going to copy my people. I'm going to roll down here. Let's go ahead and console log. Once again, we have 3 different elements. And I'm not going to repeat them because I know you guys know. Okay? So let's get to number 9. We're almost there, guys. So we notice that whatever happens in this function it's going to be returned. And this is exactly 1 line. So this is a good use case. This is a great use case for a 1-line function. So I can delete my return because whatever is going to be returned. I can delete the curly braces. And that looks good. Now this code ran in 1 line. So let's refresh this. Copy my function. I'm going to copy people. And we'll jump back over here. Okay. Now I'm going to paste this. How many elements do I have, guys? Exactly 3. So that's 9 ways to do this. Okay. Now let's do this one more time. The last way. If the function has exactly 1 argument, what can we do? Exactly. That's exactly what we can do. I'm going to delete the parentheses. What happens if it has 2 arguments and I try to do this? My code editor is going to complain. You guys see that? It's saying you can't fucking do that, man. That is not good syntax. It has to have exactly 1 argument to this function. Okay? So I'm going to refresh this. Oops. Did I refresh? I think I refreshed. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to paste people. Jump back over here. I'm going to console log find girls. And once again, I have exactly 3 elements. Okay, so from this, you guys can see that there are many different ways to write a function that does the exact same thing. As we become more advanced and we understand what each keyword does, and we become more familiar, you guys are going to use these. I want you guys to write functions like this on line 10. But I understand this takes a lot more thinking right now, a lot more practice, so I don't expect you to. I want you guys to do whatever is comfortable to you. And I just want you guys to also know that these exist, and that whenever you guys see different examples, this is what the reality of the world is. That there's always many different ways to do the same thing. Okay? So now, this code is useless on my machine. Okay? I'm going to do findgirls.js. I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to create a public gist. And I'm going to give you guys this. Okay? Now you guys have this. Now you guys can see 10 different ways to write the exact same function. Okay? And now, when you guys use this, I want you guys to look, whenever you guys do the assignment that I gave you guys, the previous gist, do whichever one you guys like. And also, you know, you guys see what it is, right? I want you guys to do things that are very similar. Okay, I want you guys to do the assignment here. Where's the assignment I gave you guys is something super similar. Okay, we're not going to be looking at gender though. Okay, we're going to be looking at whose last name is when, which color is most popular, who's an adult, what birth years, what are the jobs that people have. The same concepts. Okay. All right, guys. Do you have any questions?